This is Pastor M.D. Lewis, the speaker for the Bible Interpreter Tapes. The topic that we will discuss is the United States in the Last Day Prophecy. I call your attention now to the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter. As we studied in the previous verses and the previous study, the beast of Revelation 13, which is the beast that had the 7 heads and the 10 horns, and noted particularly as the beast. Now we're taking up the particular nation that will form the image of that beast. So I'm commencing to read now with Revelation 13, verse 11. I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now you can see right away that there is a tremendous difference in this animal. It makes a tremendous change from a lamb-like characteristic to that of a dragon. Now, we've already said that the dragon is satanic. We know that the lamb is that of the nature of Christ. So this particular power is going to make a tremendous switch in its activity from a Christ-like power to that which is satanic in its operation. Now, I want to call your attention again now to a very significant text in the book of Timothy, 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, and I'm commencing to read with the first verse and onward. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves. Now, right there is a very distinctive characteristic, in distinction to men being lovers of others, which is the Christian principle. So you can see right away what this is going to describe. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure, more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Now, with that long list of characteristics, which may read like some of the observations in our government and in our society, certainly the destroyers, the boasters, the disobedient and unthankful and proud and truce breakers are everywhere in our society today to a very distinctive proportion. Now, it would hardly be possible to think of persons with these characteristics of having any form of godliness. But that's what the text said, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. Now, it says in the last days, and I'm sure that it means just exactly that. The last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be so-and-so as they're described. So you can see that this church, spoken of as Babylon in the last days, if this is what this prophecy in the book of Timothy refers to, and it's very obviously that it does, it will have a form of godliness, but will deny the power thereof. So he alludes to this in the very first verse. I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now you recall there's a certain difference right here, right away. The dragon of Revelation, the first part of this chapter, came up out of the water. That is, it came up out of peoples. But this one comes up out of the earth in distinction that it grew up in the sense of the earth and the wilderness, which we know the United States did. And he observes this after he had observed this beast, and it says, and power was given unto this beast to continue 42 months. That's verse 5, which is the 1260-year period. So this particular power is coming up after that one, would have to be sometime in connection with the 1260-year period terminating in 1798. So the time is in accordance with the Scripture. The United States came up in 1798. George Washington had turned down the 3rd term of presidency of the United States. So they had just been going for 8 years prior to that date. So it says here, and he exercised all the power of the first beast. Now you understand the first beast is this beast, the composite beast that had the mouth of the lion, the feet of the bear, and so forth. He exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast. Now you see, this particular power picks up the same attitude as this dragon beast, and causeth the people to do so and so. And here it says, and he causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship. So this particular power is going to take up the aspect of compulsion of worship. Excuse me. Now you see, that's exactly the mark of Cain. It is no wonder then that this power speaks as a dragon, which is Satan, which is compulsion, which is exactly what Cain did. And you can see now why the mark of Cain is related to the mark of this beast. And to them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So it did receive a wound, but the wound was healed, and it comes back into world prominence, as we know the prophecy indicates. And this particular power will worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he make fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now you recall in the Old Testament that one of the verifying factors of the prophet Elisha was to bring fire down on Mount Carmel. And it says the God that answers by fire. Now there's no reason to believe otherwise than that this power is trying to imitate this verification of a heavenly power by bringing down fire in some instances. He will bring down fire from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And that's exactly what this power will do. Now, you notice then that he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying unto them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword, and did live. He had power to make an image, and then the next verse says, he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Now, notice in the writings of the church, as is depicted upon this chart that we are using in connection with these prophetical lessons, I'm reading now from the book of Revelation as it is on the chart, in which I have already read the beast that comes up from the earth having the two horns. Now notice what the Spirit of Prophecy says concerning this beast, that he causes the earth to worship. Then it says, and this comes from the volume 5, page 752, while John was shown the last great struggles of the church with the earthly powers, he was also permitted to behold the final victory and the deliverance of the faithful. He saw the church brought into deadly conflict with the beast and his image. Now you know that the beast is this great Roman power that is political as well as religious. And then the image, if it's going to reflect the image and have a power comparable to the image, would be a power that is also has a religious relationship and connection. And they are to worship, going on in the quotation, and the worship of the beast enforced on pain of death. Stating from the Review and Herald, volume May 2 of 1893, this statement is made: the people of the United States have been a favored people, but when they restrict religious liberty, surrender Protestantism, and give countenance to popery, the measure of their guilt will be full. Now here again I want to point out this word guilt. Now you understand that these are Protestants and have connection with Protestants. They have been, into a great extent over the years, many of them have been God's people. In fact, as you know, that it is said in the writings of the church that the majority of God's people are in Babylon, which are these churches. So these persons should have had a relation with the gospel, that their guilt would be taken care of. But here it says the measure of their guilt will be full, and national apostasy will be registered in the books of heaven. The result of this apostasy will be national ruin. So when this image, which is the great United States, and its collaboration with its churches, make a law of Sunday and force the people to observe it, their guilt will be full, and having no way to clear themselves of that guilt and its consequences if enforcing a law will result in their destruction. Now, the reason why it results in their destruction is because this idea of compulsion relates them to Satan and devil spirits, which shall bring about the annihilation of the human race. Now, it goes on to say in Great Controversy, page 445, the image of the beast represents that form of apostate Protestantism which will be developed when the Protestant churches shall seek the aid of civil power for the enforcement of their dogmas. Now, they do that in the civil power of the United States. So it is obvious then that the formation of the image of the beast is concurrent with the first Sunday law, which we have indicated on this chart. So I want you to see that there are certain basic points that a person should make in these prophecies, and the three angels' messages are very significant. They follow one after the other. But immediately you must associate with these angels' messages out of the information concerning them that has to do with Sunday legislature. So the image of the beast is when the United States shall, by its government, in relationship to its religious factors, make a law giving precedence and honor to Sunday. That will establish the image of the beast, and that will be the first Sunday law by the amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which is in concurrence with the second angel, Babylon is fallen. Now, it goes on to say here that when they do this, they unite and seek the aid of civil power, still quoting, as he, that is Satan, influenced the heathen nations to destroy Israel, so in the near future he will stir up the wicked powers of earth to destroy the people of God. All will be required to render obedience to human edicts in violation to divine law. So you see, they're going to force the conscience, and this particular power is the one that will start the forces going. The United States, of all the nations of the earth that have been the champions of Protestantism and freedom, will be the one that inaugurates this principle of the first Sunday law. Now, it further states in this chart that the powers of religion will be used by the state. I'm reading now from a statement that comes from Volume 5, page 451, that is on these charts in relation to the first Sunday law. It says, by the decree enforcing the institution of the papacy in violation of the law of God, our nation will disconnect herself fully from righteousness. Now, I want to point out the statement, our nation, referring to the United States. So you can see that this particular power and its forces are inaugurated by the United States, which is the beast having the horns like a lamb and speaks like a dragon. Now, further in the quotation, when Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, when she shall reach over the abyss to clasp the hands with spiritualism or spiritism, when under the influence of this threefold union, our country shall repudiate every principle of its constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehoods and delusions, then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and that the end is near. So when the United States, by its government, in collaboration with its unified religious forces of Spiritism and Romanism and Protestantism, and they come together and with the state power form the image of the beast. So when you hear the term image of the beast in the book of Revelation, you must interpret it to mean the power of the United States government after these three religious sources have come together and the government collaborates with the churches to pass this law. That makes the image of the beast, which has always been a political and a religious power for many years. So the giving life to this image and its image of the beast is giving it life by its political government and the power of the government to force Sunday in the United States, which is the first Sunday law. So we see then that these events of the last days follow in a very distinctive aspect, and when we see how they're functioning, we shall know how this will come about. Now, further in this particular statement, in the Writings of the Church, Volume 5, page 464, which is paragraph 11 on the second chart, it says that as the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for flight to the Judean Christians, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation. Now here again you see it says our nation. Now when these little factors come up in the quotations, a person should be prepared to identify them with certain Sunday laws in connection with certain angels' messages. The first Sunday law is in connection with Babylon fallen, which is the second angel's message. So it says here, when our nation, in the decree enforcing the papal Sabbath, will be a warning to us, it will then be time to leave the large cities. Now you see, she makes this particular observation in relationship to Jerusalem of antiquity, that when the Jews, through their failure to represent Christ and their disloyalty to God and the sanctuary, turned against Christ as their king and established their fidelity with the Roman government, it would result in the destruction of Jerusalem. Now you remember, I have already read the statement that when this Sunday law goes into effect, it says that this apostasy will be the ruin, the signal for ruin of our nation. So you can see there is a conformity of events that, turning against God's law, which is life and eternal life and happiness, turning against it will result in destruction and death. So it's not only true of ancient Jerusalem, brought on by the Romans, it will be also true in the last days by these great powers. So it says it'll be time to leave the large cities. So as the surrounding of Jerusalem by Cestus was a signal for the Christians in the environs of Jerusalem to get ready to get out, when God permitted the army to withdraw and the Jews went out and engaged them in combat, the Christians left the city, and when Flavius Vespasianus, the Roman general, came back to lay siege on Jerusalem and finally destroyed the Jews, there were no Christians destroyed in that siege. They observed the sign and they got out. So as the Romans circling Jerusalem is comparable to the great Roman system of the last days by their Sunday laws encircling the free conscience of the Christians, it will be a sign to them they'd better move to a safer position. And that they will do. God will provide a way for his people to escape, and he will give them signs indicating when to make the moves. So that's why we should, in one degree, know these prophecies, for it will lead us in the most advantageous position and moves for our safety and comfort. It will then be time to leave the large cities, preparatory to leaving the smaller ones for retired homes in secluded places among the mountains. So when that time comes to leave the smaller city, there will be also a sign, and we'll bring that up later on in our studies. Now, it says in this particular, these charts, in the 12th paragraph of the second chart, it says, to defy the Sunday laws will but strengthen in their persecution the religious zealots who are seeking to enforce them. Give them no occasion to call you lawbreakers. Volume 9, page 232. As America, the land of religious liberty, shall unite with the papacy enforcing the conscience and compelling men to honor the false Sabbath, the people of every country on the globe will be led to follow her example. Now, it's indicative in that statement that America leads out and the other nations of the world follow later on. Now, that's exactly what we have observed before, that when the world government is set up, then they will make a decree that none shall be able to buy or sell under the observation of the false Sabbath, and that is the second Sunday law. But notice here now it says every country on the globe will follow her example, showing that it will finally become worldwide. Now, there is a statement from the book of Volume 5, 524, Volume 5 of the Testimonies, that says this: God keeps a reckoning with the nations. Through every century of this world's history, evil workers have been treasuring up wrath. Now, I want to call your attention before these studies are consummated that there is a very distinctive term in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, that speaks of the 7 last plagues as the wrath of God. And then in the book of Revelation, the 17th and 18th chapter, it distinctly speaks of the wrath of Babylon. It says in the Revelation 18 verse 4 that come out of her, my people, that ye be not partaker of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. That these plagues that come are fostered by her as a result of their influence of the spirits of devils. So we'll point this out in a further study, but I just want to call your attention to it as is brought up in this particular statement, that these plagues are coming from the result of Satan in the church by compulsion. God keeps a reckoning with the nations through every century of this world's history. Evil workers have treasuring up wrath against the day of wrath. And then when the time fully comes that iniquity shall have reached the stated boundary of God's mercy, his forbearance will cease. When the accumulated figures in heaven records books shall mark the sum of transgression complete, wrath will come unmixed with mercy, and then it will be seen what a tremendous thing it is to have worn out the divine patience. This crisis will be reached when the nations shall unite in making void God's law. Now, I pointed out to you in these quotations where the writer speaks of our nation, and then it speaks of, as it does in this case, when the nations shall unite in making void God's law. Now, in Psalms 119, 125, we find this text, and it says, "It is time for thee, Lord, to work, for they have made void thy law." So the prophet, looking to this time, sees this instance when the whole world shall be united against God's law and make this decree that none shall be able to buy or sell. So this is indicative that the powers of earth have united and will finally make a compulsive law that none shall be able to buy or sell. And this is in collaboration with the third angel's message. So it is important for us to see how these angels' messages have to do with these events of the last days. Now, I want to call your attention to a statement in the Spirit of Prophecy from Volume 8 of the Testimonies, page 116. It says, "What are we doing? Are we giving the message of the third angel? The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image. And whosoever receiveth the mark of his name, here is the patience of the saints, here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus." The commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus are united. Now, I want further in these studies to point this out, that those who keep the commandments of God give the testimony of Jesus. Now, the testimony of Jesus, of course, is the Spirit of Prophecy. It's always based upon the law of God. It's the law of God, as relates to the life of every individual, is the basis of prophecy as to what will happen to that individual. And that's why I'm pointing out again that the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, which contains the law of God, and that this particular apartment has a distinctive relationship to the society of earth from 1844 till the close and the 7 last plagues, comes out of that apartment. So the prophecies are made known by the relationship of the people and certain organizations and powers in the last days to the law. No prophecy is predicted that is not based upon the 10 Commandments and the consequence of either relating or opposing it. And that's why the last apartment is bringing the end of the world, is because the people are making their final commitment and relationship to that law. That's what the judgment is going to effect. So it goes on to say here that the angels are holding the 4 winds, that they shall not blow until the specified work of warning is given to the world. But the storm is gathering, the clouds are loading, ready to burst upon the world, and to many it will be as a thief in the night. Now, I'm sure that these people who will have this experience, that these events will come as a thief in the night are people who have believed certain interpretation of the Bible and its doctrines and revelation that are not according with the Scripture. That's why it's so very important to know the sanctuary and to know the work of the last department and to know how it relates to the prophecies of the book of Revelation and the dragons and the angels' messages, so that this day will not come upon us as a thief. But we will be absolutely aware of it because we have known these prophecies. Now it goes on in this statement from Review and Herald, April 28, 1890. She says, many smiled and disbelieved 20 and 30 years ago when we told them that the Sunday law would be urged upon all the world, and a law be made to compel its observance and force and enforce the conscience. Now here again I want to call your attention to this statement and to show how that the last piece of furniture in the heavenly sanctuary is going to be the issue of the last day events. Whether or not the conscience will be absolutely set free by the application of the blood of Calvary to the human soul, or by compulsion against God's law, shall force the conscience into submission to Satan. So it is out of the most holy place that these last events will find their great meaning. How important it is for us, having the writings of the Spirit of prophecy, having the enlightenment of these last day events, that we know them and learn them, so that when they are, as we now see, they are coming upon the earth. And I might say, as we go further into this image of the beast, that these powers called the moral majority have taken upon them, exactly as we have been illustrating in these prophecies, endeavor to use the force of government in compulsion to rectifying certain aspects in society. And if they do this, it's obvious that this power will very likely become the image of the beast, or will be associated with a similar work of this kind. So we can see these events are coming to pass, and how important it is for us now to know these prophecies definitely and specifically, that we may bring our lives by the Holy Spirit into compliance with Christ for the salvation of our soul.